Hey geographers, today I'm going to talk about the three agricultural revolutions. To begin, I'm going to talk about the first agricultural revolution. This sounds fancy, but it's basically when humans stopped hunting animals and started planting their own food, like the original takeout, but way slower. So about 10,000 years ago, people were living like hunters and gatherers, which means they'd roam around looking for whatever they could eat. Imagine trying to find dinner every single day. No Uber Eats, no Amazon Prime, just with the occasional angry mammoth. Not the best life, right? Then someone, probably by accident, decided to plant some seeds. Like, hey, what if I don't eat those seeds, but plant them and wait? And bam, farming was born. It was kind of like the first slow cooker in history. You plant the seeds, wait a while, and then surprise, food. Once farming started, people didn't have to move around all the time. They built villages, settled down, and started storing food for the future. Basically, they went from, I hope I find more food today, to I have leftovers, yay. And leftovers mean you can chill a bit more. Farming started in places like the Fertile Crescent, that's in the Middle East, and soon spread through relocation and contagious diffusion to China, India, Africa, and the Americas. Different crops were domesticated in different regions. In the Middle East, it was wheat and barley. In China, rice. Plus, with more food, the population grew. And when there's more people, you get different jobs, with like tool makers, builders, and even early traders. So that's how social classes kind of got started. Some people were farmers and others were pretending to be busy, probably. Plus, agriculture changed how people thought about time. When you're farming, you have to pay attention to seasons, when to plant, when to harvest, so calendars and early forms of cultural landscape began to pop up. Farming also leads to urbanization, because as villages grew, they eventually turned into bigger towns and cities. Farming tools and techniques are an example of the technological innovation, which helped people produce more food. The first agricultural revolution was huge because it kicked off civilization. Without it, we'd still be running around like crazy trying to find dinner. So next time you're eating a snack, just remember, you've got farming to thank for that. Alright, that's it from me. Thanks for listening.
Changing gears into the second agricultural revolution, it was not only a revolution in agriculture, but also a revolution in industry. As technology brought from the Industrial Revolution caused production of goods and crops to increase dramatically. These technologies revolutionized the production of food in many different ways. For example, the mechanical reaper and threshing machine allowed farmers to rapidly harvest crops and separate grain seed. This particular revolution took place in 1760 to 1840, coinciding with the rapid development of many states in Europe and North America. In fact, the Industrial Revolution's hearth, or its origin, is in Great Britain. From there, it spread through all types of diffusion. For example, contagious diffusion, when moving across Europe from farmer to farmer. All this extra food meant that people began having more kids, causing the total fertility rate and population to skyrocket. Looking at the demographic transition model, the second agricultural revolution was in stage 2, since we see a rapid growth in population. Now, what were some of the big changes that this revolution brought? First, the revolution led to countries rapidly developing their economy. This is because all of that new technology meant that a country's agricultural density went down. Less farming jobs led to more people getting jobs in the manufacturing or service sectors of the economy. This, in turn, moved that country through Rostow's model of economic development, an economic model that tells us that the more service-based jobs there are in a country, the more economically developed that country is.
Although the Industrial Revolution came with rapid demographic and economic development, there were some significant drawbacks. For example, the commons, or the communally owned land in a settlement, was bought out by wealthy landowners using the Enclosure Acts, passed in England. This led to people who depended on these lands to become homeless and destitute. Instead, this land was used for industrialized farming for a profit, so-called commercial agriculture, instead of people growing the food for oneself or their families, so-called subsistence agriculture. In addition, all kinds of pollution and sustainability issues increased as factories and unsustainable farming practices became commonplace. On this issue, we're still working on it to this day. Now, the Industrial Revolution had its impact on every scale of analysis. On the regional level, the cultural landscapes of settlements changed as economies developed and industrialized. Factories and industries were built at a high rate, urbanization and urban sprawl started to become apparent, and new modes of transportation powered by the steam engine became common for people traveling long distances at a faster rate. On the national level, states militarized as nationalism grew and as new technology advanced weaponry, prompting the world wars that would come to follow. On the global scale, a food surplus began as core countries exploited periphery countries for their resources as shown by Wallerstein's world systems theory. This legacy of imperialism and colonization would define the global disparities that exist today.
Next, we're diving into one of the most important agricultural changes in human history, the Green Revolution. Let's break down what it was, where it happened, and why it still matters today. The Green Revolution was a period of major advancements in agriculture that dramatically increased food production around the world. It introduced high-yield seeds, chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and modern farming machinery, all designed to grow more food faster. It began in the 1940s and picked up speed through the 1960s and 70s, starting in Mexico with the work of American scientist Dr. Norman Borlaug. From there, it spread to countries like India and Pakistan, eventually influencing agriculture on a global scale. This is an example of diffusion as innovations moved from one region to another. Some key innovations included disease-resistant wheat, chemical fertilizers, and mechanized tractors and irrigation systems. These boosted crop yields, reduced famines, and helped many countries become more food secure. In India, for example, wheat production nearly doubled within a few years. More food also meant cheaper prices and stronger economies in many developing nations. This shift supported intensive agriculture where large amounts of labor and capital were used to increase productivity on existing land. But not everyone benefited equally. In many places, women lost agricultural jobs due to new machinery replacing manual labor. Families relying on small farms often couldn't compete with large-scale agribusiness operations. However, increased food security also meant lower death rates and improved child nutrition, contributing to changes in population growth and the demographic transition model in many countries. Positives: more food, fewer famines, stronger economies. Negatives: environmental damage from overuse of fertilizers and pesticides, soil degradation, and a loss of biodiversity due to monoculture growing just one type of crop. Regionally, the Green Revolution helped countries like Mexico and India become more self-sufficient. Nationally, it reduced hunger and spurred industrial agriculture. Globally, it transformed how we grow food, but also made many poor countries dependent on Western seeds and chemicals, highlighting issues of core periphery relationships in the global economy. The Green Revolution was a game changer, solving big problems while creating new ones. It fed billions, changed societies, and shaped the world we live in today. But as we look to the future, we'll need to learn from its lessons to build a more sustainable food system for all.
All right, now time for a practice quiz. When did the first agricultural revolution begin? Answer C, 9000 BCE. What are some inventions of the second agricultural revolution? Answer D, the mechanical reaper. Where did the Green Revolution originate? Answer C, Mexico. Geographers, that'll be it for today. But just as a recap, the first agricultural revolution was where it all began. It was the first stepping stone for large-scale societies. The second agricultural revolution was when agriculture became mechanized, a time when people could do other things than farming. And finally, the Green Revolution increased the efficiency of food production with the invention of better fertilizer, pesticides, and hybridized crops. Thank you for watching, and thanks to Mr. Sin for inspiring the video.